probably invest about $500 in the car. You have to join a club, then you come up here and have 6 weeks of absolutely hilarious fun.
We're looking at the investment of building for the long term, not the short term.
Motoring 92 is brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.
On a beautiful day like today, who wants to think about winter? Well, absolutely nobody, unless your name is Paul Culleton. Hello everybody and welcome to Motoring 92. You see, over this past winter, Paul heard about some drivers who, believe it or not, love to drive in wintry conditions. In fact, the snowier and icier, the better. Well, we figured Paul's been out in the cold long enough, so here's his report, and if nothing else, it's going to make you appreciate those warm summer days.
Okay, one last thing. We are running clockwise today, counterclockwise tomorrow, and Paul Seaman wants a quick word with you.
When I picked up my first generation Civic at Tom Prentice's place 2 weeks ago, I'm missing 2 mounted tires on rims. I figured somebody thought the car had been abandoned, I wasn't going to use it or something, and has borrowed them. If I could have them back, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, that's it. Thanks very much.
Snow and ice strikes fear into the heart of the average driver, unless you happen to be an ice racer. These guys take a driver's nightmare, turn it into a sport, and love doing it.
It started in the 60s with racers taking their passion to the frozen lakes. The problem was, when the ice went, the sport literally risked sinking out of sight. So 8 years ago they moved inland to the Kiwanis Horse Track in Minden. 40 feet wide and 1.5 kilometers of white-knuckle racing.
Ice car racing, or ice racing as we refer to it, is basically a grassroots sport. The car preparation is very basic. Basically remove a lot of things that would make your car legal for a highway, i.e. headlights, breakable objects inside, and attaching specific safety devices by the rules set out by CASC, which is our governing body.
And the tires would be your biggest expense. And for under $500, you can be up here and running. Anyone can run. You need a basic Canadian Automobile Sporting Club license, which is a mail order license. You have to join a club. Then you come up here and have 6 weeks of absolutely hilarious fun.
It's very broad ranged. We have people from the age 17 on up to age 60 competing. Both male and females compete on the track at the same time. It's an excellent background and learning area where they can come out, see how fast they want to go, learn car control, and learn to drive actually a lot safer on the main roads.
Well, after having worked at the ice races as an official for a number of years, about 6 years ago, when the girls were old enough to get their license, we came up here to ice race so that they could get some practice before they started racing on the track in the summer. And we've been at it now for 6 seasons. We've gone through 2 or 3 cars, and we get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And although my wife isn't here today, she's usually up here with us as well.
It's exciting because he has a much more driving experience in years than I've had. And to watch him go out and watch his control, I take from that, learn from that experience, and try and beat him.
It's a big challenge. And a lot of the time I don't race, like in winter racing, I don't really race against other people. I race against myself because I race in the summer too. So I try to, because this helps a lot for racing in the rain in the summer. So I try to find out what the car is going to do and how to handle it when it does do it.
Now, you were a driver one time. I would assume now you have been relegated to the crew chief and you have passed on the driving wheel to the daughters now?
Oh no, we won't let them away with that. I drive as well. In fact, I compete in the same class as Elaine does. When we first started out, we thought it would be novel because we had girls racing to have the car pink. In fact, some of the locals come and look for the pink Mini, and they're disappointed if it isn't here. So we have 2 pink Minis running, and we try to keep everybody happy, and everybody knows who we are. Why win? Well, it's the first I've had in 6 years of racing. Car's working just right. We've been working on it for a while. I ran it last year, didn't run too well. Made some changes and finally traced the problem we had down. So now I was able to get traction this morning and pulled out and kept my head, stayed ahead of other people. Had a couple of little problems, but nothing really serious. Feels real good.
3 years ago, it was only a concept, a dream for the future. Today, the Jaguar Xj220 is the world's fastest production car. It's powered by a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 engine, which delivers 542 horsepower at 7,000 RPM. The 4 valves per second cylinder 4-cam unit has been extensively modified for road use to meet European legislative requirements. The Xj220 runs on super unleaded fuel. In testing sessions, the Xj220 exceeded 342 kilometers or 212 miles per hour. It will accelerate from 0 to 161 kilometers in just under 8 seconds. The car will be manufactured at a rate of just 2 a week. Only 350 of the mid-engine 2-seaters will be built, with all 350 having been pre-sold throughout Europe and the Far East. The price tag, £360,000, or about $700,000 Canadian.
Matched with this engine is perhaps the best example of a 5-speed gearbox found in a front-wheel drive car. It is slick and smooth to the feel, with ratios being spaced such that you can always derive the very best from this new engine.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we look at the second Honda product to undergo radical restyling. Now this is the 1992 Honda Prelude, and as with the Civic, the changes go much deeper than just appearance.
The vast majority of women who saw the Prelude for the first time raved about the new styling, while the majority of males viewed it with indifference. I must admit to being one of the majority. For me, the symmetry and balanced appearance is destroyed by the disproportionately large rear light lenses. That said, the car is not without its pluses. Honda's wonderful fully independent double wishbone suspension ensures superb handling characteristics. On the skid pad, the new Prelude put on a stellar performance in the pylon test. It tracked a clean, precise line through the cones, with body roll and understeer both being kept to a minimum. On the open road, it allows you to drive the car with confidence. The ride is on the firm side, but it still manages to provide reasonable comfort. Under the hood, the SR model tested features a new, larger, more powerful 2.3-litre inline-4. Horsepower is rated at 160. A 2-stage intake manifold ensures good low and mid-range torque. The endearing part of the engine is the fact that it loves to rev and yet never becomes overly noisy. During the acceleration tests, we managed to eclipse the 100k mark in under 8 seconds. Matched with this engine is perhaps the best example of a 5-speed gearbox found in a front-wheel drive car. It is slick and smooth to the feel, with ratios being spaced such that you can always derive the very best from this new engine. Standard on the SR is Honda's own anti-lock brake system. During the brake test, it hauled the Honda to a halt in 124 feet from 80k. The reason for the slightly longer than average stops were the Bridgestone Potenza tyres. These tyres are great in the dry but leave a lot to be desired in the wet, despite being all-season in design. The giveaway was the ABS system. In the dry, the system only intervened when absolutely necessary. However, at the first sign of water, the slightest provocation, and the ABS started to do its thing.
Now I've shoehorned myself into the Prelude to show you a couple of things. Now obviously, as you can see, there is very little or no headroom. The second thing, legroom varies from being very tight to non-existent. And thirdly,
Even for my rather small size 8s, there's next to no tow room under the seat. However, the real reason I came back here was to show you the one and only glove box. It sits between the two rear passengers and makes it almost impossible for the driver to use, even at the best of times.
Inside, the Prelude is designed such that the driver can reach, see and operate all the primary controls with ease. This holds true from the power window controls to the cruise control mounted in the steering wheel. The front seats feature enormous back and base bolsters. They provide tremendous support, but anyone with a portly build will find them a little restricting.
My pet peeve on the Prelude is quite simple. It's the dashboard. Ahead of the driver are a wonderful set of analog gauges, complete tach and a very nice speedo. Now to the right of those are two digital readouts, one for fuel and one for temperature. Now if you happen to have the lights on, they dim to the point where they're almost invisible. Now if you continue on across the dash, above the daytime running light is the clock. It's so far out in right field that it becomes almost redundant from the driver's perspective. All in all, this is one of the worst dash designs I've come across in a heck of a long time. Anyway, now to the scoreboard for a rundown on the 1992 Honda Prelude.
One of the highlights of the new SR is the handling. The suspension is firm enough to ensure predictability, yet supple enough to be comfortable. Had the tyres been the equal of the suspension, I would have awarded a 9 here, but as it is, I can only give a 7. With the new engine, the Prelude has power to spare. On the skid pad, we zipped through the 100k mark in under 8 seconds. On the road, the free revving nature of the engine makes you want to just drive and drive. Honda's own anti-lock brake system always worked well in the dry, managing to haul the Honda to rest in 124 feet from 80k. Now I would dearly love to test this car with different rubber because I'm convinced I can better the stopping distances. The supportive seats, supple suspension and lack of engine noise make the Prelude a joy to drive, and one of the better examples of how refined sports cars are today. During the test, we averaged a commendable 10.1 litres per 100 kilometres or 28 miles per gallon. The high and low figures were 22 miles per gallon and 31 miles per gallon respectively. The newest version of the Prelude has all the right ingredients to make it a winner. Having said that, I found the total package less than the sum of the individual parts. Perhaps the most telling comment came from my wife. She said she preferred to drive the Civic we were testing at the same time.
Three guesses and the first two don't count. Time's up. Well, it's a 62 Chevy Nova and it's a convertible. And you know who would love to get his hands under this hood. And I'm talking, of course, about Bill Gardner. Let's head to the garage.
You know, when you see a restaurant or bar advertising 10-cent chicken wings one night of the week, I'm sure that you probably realize that that's a loss leader and that it costs them more than 10 cents to buy those and prepare them and serve them to you. But of course, you know, they know that you're going to spend money on other things while you're there, and that's fine and dandy. But what's really ticking me off about some of this loss leader advertising in the automotive field, and that's what I want to talk about today, is some of the things that are going on right now. Of course, with the recession, things are a little bit slow, and people are really trying to drum up some business. And I cut out an ad last month out of the Toronto newspaper for a nationwide muffler chain that was advertising they do a four-wheel alignment for you for $19.95. Now that same outfit's charging $85 today, and it's not uncommon. I did a little survey of about 5 or 6 outfits that do this kind of work, and the average was about $80 to $100, and some were $110 for this kind of work. So $19.95 is a heck of a deal if you can get it done at that price. The only problem I have with this is that, of course, it is a bit of a loss leader, and they're hoping that you're going to need other work. And you've got to beware that you don't get oversold. I've got another clipping here of the same outfit being charged for trying to defraud somebody on a brake job. So you've got to watch out that they don't try and oversell you. Now, I'm not saying don't go in and take your car in for this kind of work. Some of these specials are really a great deal. You can save some money. But you know, going back to the old chicken wing analogy, you know if you need another drink or you want more to eat. But when it comes to your car, if they tell you need something more, how do you know? Get a second opinion. If you don't believe that there really is 4 shocks required or 4 ball joints or whatever this extra work they're suggesting, get another opinion from another shop, because maybe you don't need that work and they were just trying to make up for what they gave you away on the special. Okay? Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 92.
Want to buy a new car? You can have this 1992 Bentley Continental R for only $310,000 plus tax. Only 200 will be produced, with 94 coming to North America.
It's a 6.7 liter V8, turbocharged. It's a Garrett Research turbocharger on it, and it's always on the turbo. There's no wastegate in this car, so there's no turbo lag. You know, so from 0 to 60 in under 7 seconds, it's quite a performing car as well. Right now, there is a waiting list for the Continental R across the world, and the very first car they showed in Geneva Motor Show sold for £2 million to the Sultan of Brunei, as the story goes. So it's an interesting waiting list for the automobile right now.
This is a Detroit Diesel Series 60 engine. Detroit Diesel is 80% owned by Roger Penske. He also, by the way, is one of our biggest customers in the U.S. through Hertz Penske Leasing.
If you're looking for some smiling faces or light and lively conversation, I wouldn't suggest talking to anybody involved in the selling or manufacturing of automobiles. Let's face it, the market, especially the domestic market, has been in a major slump. It's hard to find a good news story. But guess what? We found one. This is North America's newest truck plant. Freightliner, a subsidiary of Daimler-Benz, has been building trucks since 1961. 3 weeks after this plant opened, Freightliner closed down its plant in Burnaby, British Columbia after 31 years of production. The reason? To be where the action is. And apparently the truck action is in the east.
The mood around here is good. The truck industry, I mean, I think we're sort of a gauge and a barometer in the economy. Quite simply, we felt this recession coming, I think, before other people did. Because what happens is our customers quit buying trucks because their customers don't give them orders to haul freight. And in turn, we're feeling the first signs of this coming back out because our order board's doubled, and we're seeing more and more people ordering trucks 120 days out from now, which means they're financed for that product and that their customers then have a need for it. So I think we've seen the hump, we've turned it, it's positive. The difference between us and the car people is certainly we do know our customers in a lot of cases on a very personal basis. The product is very personal. It's a small marketplace that we play in. If you use a Canadian market, we're looking at probably in the large Class 8 truck that you're looking here, we're looking at maybe a 10 to 11,000 truck market in the year 1992. So we get to know who those people are and specifically what they need to run up and down the highway to make a living.
We're basically now an assembly plant. Most of our major components come in from our Mount Holly, North Carolina plant, and some of our electrical components come in from our Portland plant. We basically spend the rest of the time assembling the vehicle and then preparing it for the customer.
We have probably right now approximately 10,000 names on file or resumes with about 125 people working at the plant here now, looking to go to 20 trucks a day with 600 people.
What are you doing right now? What's your production?
Production right now is 2 trucks a day.
Can you make money at two trucks a day?
No.
Yeah.
No, you can't make money at 2 trucks a day. But again, it's an investment, and the intent is you need to get up to your production levels of 20 trucks a day. And somewhere in the middle of that, I'm sure, is where our break-even point is, where it makes sense. Again, we're looking at the investment of building for the long term, not the short term.
You know, we have a myriad of different models. We have 3 major engine manufacturers, 3 major transmission manufacturers, 3 major axle and clutch manufacturers. It makes life interesting to make sure that all the parts go on the truck in the proper place and in the proper sequence. We have Detroit Diesel, Caterpillar, and Cummins. They range anywhere from 11 to 12.7 liters, and horsepower-wise from 300 up to 450.
I want to buy a truck. I want to buy a Freightliner truck. What kind of money are you going to spend these days?
Again, depending on your needs and your application. I mean, the average truck is probably somewhere in the $85,000, $90,000 range. But very much you can take trucks, you know, from the bottom end of a $65,000 truck up to a $125,000 truck, depending again on what your needs are of load specifications and where you're going to haul and how much horsepower you need.
After a 6-month hiatus from the Canadian automobile market, Audi is back with a new line of German luxury sedans. Prices begin at just over $28,000 for the 90s model to $70,000 for the revised V8. The Audi 90 and the 100 models feature a 172 horsepower V6.
Another clever feature on the new Audi 100 is retractable headlight washers. After the headlights have been sprayed, the nozzle retracts and the cover sits flush again with the body panel.
The new kid in the Audi lineup is the high-performance S4 with 5 cylinders and a turbocharger. As part of Volkswagen Canada's plan to promote the concept of control, Audi dealers will push the all-wheel drive Quattro system. The Quattro has proven highly successful in international racing, and for the first time, the Audi Quattro will be available with an automatic transmission in North America.
An automatic transmission is much more popular in Canada and in the United States. In Europe we are more used to stick shift, although we believe it's changing here too. The most important thing for us in Canada is to combine Quattro as a driving system we very strongly believe in, because it adds a lot of safety to the driver and to the passengers in the car with an automatic transmission. And we are very pleased to bring this car to the market. It should be very exciting to our customers and to us.
Cemetery or fishing hole? We'll explain that next on Kenzie's Corner.
Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
Now this may look like a cemetery to you, but to a policeman with a radar gun, this is a fishing hole. Now no amount of rationalization is going to convince me that having a cop sitting here at 3 in the morning is doing anything for traffic safety. Now the police tell us that, well, the sorts of people they catch speeding at that time of the day are the same sorts of people that are doing bad things on the roads that cause accidents. Well, to me that's like saying most prostitutes wear short skirts, so let's arrest every woman wearing a short skirt. Now some police departments are taking a broader view of the situation. My friends at the Ontario Provincial Police, for example, are involved in a program called Spring Tune-Up. Officers are patrolling one stretch of freeway in metropolitan Toronto, nailing people for tailgating, lane changing, and occasionally speeding. But no radar is involved. They're actually getting out into traffic and catching the real bad guys. So Police Forces of Canada, my suggestion is throw away your fishing poles or your radar guns and get out there and catch the real bad guys. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Last year, an American magazine that will go unnamed selected the Chevrolet Caprice as its car of the year. I don't know what they were smoking. Nice car maybe, but car of the year? As a matter of fact, a lot of policemen in this country are now being forced to drive this car. So you may want to ask a policeman what he thinks of it. In fact, you could ask the policeman that's driving this one about the car when he returns. And he will return. So it's time for me to leave. We'll see you next week for more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
Motoring 92 has been brought to you by Quaker State. Quaker State, one tough motor oil.